Is Sunday really about to turn into Monday? And still, no sign of Diddy walking out? Because that's what we all thought, right? We were told, almost promised, that this week would mark his return. Social media was ready, the news outlets were buzzing, fans were waiting for that first glimpse. But here we are again. Another week coming to a close, and the man everyone's been talking about is still sitting inside. No release, no footage, no announcement, nothing. It's like time stood still for him while the world outside kept moving. People keep asking, what's going on? Didn't they say he'd be released? Didn't someone confirm that? Yeah, they did. In fact, they doubled down on it. Every major post, every gossip headline said the same thing. Diddy's coming home. But let's be real, where is he? Because there's no proof. There's no photo of him stepping out of that gate, no video, no celebration, nothing to suggest that the story was ever true. It almost feels like we're trapped inside one of those old Where's Waldo books. You know, those pages filled with hundreds of faces, and you're just trying to find the one guy in the red and white stripes. Except this time, the question isn't where's Waldo, it's where's Diddy? And no matter how hard you look, you can't seem to spot him. In the UK, we'd call it where's Wally? But no matter what you call it, the game's the same. He's nowhere to be found. They said he was being transferred. They said it was all part of a bigger plan, a deal, a move. But none of that happened. Reports started flying that he was headed to a new facility. Then rumors said he'd already been released. But the truth? Nothing's changed. He's still in the same place, at the same center, doing the same routine day after day. The only thing that's different now is how confused everyone is. And that confusion has turned into frustration. Fans are upset. Supporters feel misled. People are questioning everything. Not just the news outlets, but even the credibility of those closest to him. It's wild how one story can ripple through the internet, shape expectations, and then just vanish when the truth doesn't match the hype. Because that's what happened here. The hype was big, maybe too big. And now the silence feels louder than any headline. Let's be honest for a moment. Diddy's case has been one of the most unpredictable in the entertainment world. From the moment things turned against him, the timeline has been chaotic. One minute there's talk of a deal, the next minute, there's total silence. It's like trying to follow a map with half the directions missing. Everyone's searching for clues, but the answers just aren't coming. And now, as another week begins, people are starting to realize, maybe the story wasn't true in the first place. Maybe the sources were just echoing each other, passing around the same piece of unverified information until it became a narrative everyone believed. Maybe the truth was never that close at all. But let's not forget what this man is still facing. The reality is he's still behind bars. The reports of his transfer haven't been confirmed, the stories about his release haven't materialized, and every insider that said he's coming home this week has gone quiet. There's a pattern here, and it's the same one we've seen before in countless celebrity stories. Hope gets built up, the internet catches fire, and then silence. No follow-up, no correction, no accountability. It's hard to tell what's worse, the false hope or the fact that so many people believed it. And you can't really blame them either. After months of drama, any hint of something positive felt like light at the end of the tunnel. But now that light's flickering. Meanwhile, life inside continues. The same walls, the same routines, the same long nights. Diddy's still there, in that cell, dealing with whatever comes his way. For him, time must feel like it's moving in slow motion. Every day, the same structure, the same rhythm, waiting, wondering, thinking. And outside, everyone's writing stories about his comeback, his redemption, his return. None of which has happened. It makes you think about how easily stories spread online. One post can change the narrative completely, even if it's not grounded in truth. Someone says he's getting out, and suddenly the internet believes it. People start celebrating early, reposting, sharing, building a whole wave of emotion, and then when it doesn't happen, nobody knows what to believe anymore. You see, that's the danger of living in an age where information moves faster than facts. It's easy to get lost in the noise. But when the noise fades, what's left is the truth. And the truth right now is that Diddy hasn't gone anywhere. He's still where he was, still serving time, still facing the consequences of everything that came before. The wildest part? Some of his team keep talking as if he's already out, as if this is just a pause before the comeback. But there's no comeback when you're still locked up. There's no grand plan that can move faster than the system itself. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. When you're inside, the world moves differently. So maybe it's time to stop chasing rumors and start facing reality. Maybe all this noise was never meant to happen in the first place. Maybe the story everyone's waiting for, the big Diddy walks free headline, isn't coming anytime soon. Because for now, everything points to one truth: he's still there. And you know what's strange? Even though we can't see him, we all keep talking about him. That's the power of celebrity. Even in silence, they dominate the conversation. But at some point, the conversation needs to be real. And the reality is simple. No matter how much noise is made, facts don't change just because we want them to. Right now, Diddy's not free. He hasn't been moved. He hasn't been transferred. All the noise online? Just that noise. Maybe one day he'll walk out. Maybe one day we'll see that video, the moment everyone's waiting for. But that day isn't today. Not yet. Until then, we keep asking the same question: where's Diddy? Not in the rumors, not in the stories, not in the fake reports, but in reality. Because somewhere in that cell, time's still ticking. And for all the noise we make out here, it doesn't change what's happening inside. Maybe that's the real story here, not just the mystery of whether he's been released, but the reminder that sometimes truth moves slower than gossip. And in that silence, you can see the difference between what's real and what's imagined.so until we see it for ourselves, until the facts are undeniable, until the gates actually open. It's safe to say, Diddy's still inside. The story continues, but not the way anyone expected. Because in the end, the truth doesn't need to shout. It just waits quietly until people are ready to see it.so. Let's really talk about it. What's actually happening right now? Because while everyone's been waiting for a miracle headline, the truth hasn't changed. Diddy's still there. The rumors came and went, the interviews got louder, but the situation stayed exactly the same. The thing about reality is that it doesn't bend to the stories people create. You can write 100 tweets, make 1,000 posts, upload endless breaking updates. But if the truth hasn't changed, it hasn't changed. And that's the space we're in right now. Behind those walls, Diddy is still facing his sentence. Still waking up to the same concrete surroundings, the same metal bars, the same sound of doors locking every night. The world outside might move quickly, but inside, time moves painfully slow. Hours drag, days blend, weeks disappear. And while the internet jumps from one rumor to the next, for him, nothing moves at all. It's easy to forget that behind every headline is a real person living through it. But the internet doesn't care about time or truth. It only cares about the next wave of attention. And that's what we saw here. One report drops, and suddenly everyone starts building their own story on top of it. People said he was walking out, others claimed to have exclusive sources. But if you look closely, none of them ever showed proof. It was all smoke, no fire. And now, the silence speaks louder than ever. Because if he really was released, we'd know. It wouldn't be hidden. There'd be pictures, footage, celebration, something. But instead, what we have is nothing. That tells you everything you need to know. What's even more surprising is how quickly people lose focus. Last week, the internet couldn't stop talking about this. Now, it's already on to the next story, the next viral moment. That's the cycle we live in: outrage, hype, silence, repeat. But the truth doesn't fade just because people move on. The truth waits. And for Diddy, that truth is simple. He's still where he's been all along. No transfer, no secret deal, no special treatment. Just the slow passing of time inside those walls. His lawyers might be doing interviews, his supporters might be tweeting about faith and hope. But the system doesn't move because of feelings. It moves on paperwork, process, and patience. 3 things that don't care about social media timelines. Think about it. How many times have we seen this same pattern with celebrities? A big story drops, fans rally behind it, and everyone believes the exclusive scoop. Then, a week later, reality shows up like a quiet reminder that not everything we read is true. The internet builds castles out of rumors, but when you look closely, those castles are made of sand. For Diddy, this has to be a humbling chapter. The man who once had control over everything, the music, the business, the parties, the power, is now living a life that's completely structured by others. He doesn't decide when to wake up, when to sleep, when to eat. Every single part of his day is dictated by rules. And that kind of change breaks something inside you, but it can also rebuild you if you let it. Sometimes silence and confinement become the greatest teachers. When you're cut off from the noise, you're forced to face yourself. You start seeing things differently. Maybe that's what's happening now. Maybe he's realizing that the world outside moves on, no matter who you are. Fame can't stop time. Money can't buy freedom once it's taken away. And influence, well, it fades fast when reality sets in. And that's why the hype around his release felt off from the start. Because deep down, people people wanted to believe in redemption more than they wanted to see the truth. They wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, he'd walk out and everything would reset. But that's not how life works. Life doesn't skip consequences. In a way, this whole situation has become a reflection of how disconnected we've become from reality. The lines between truth and rumor are so blurred that most people don't even wait for confirmation anymore. They just share, react, and move on. And when the truth finally appears, no one's around to hear it. That's why it's important to pause and ask ourselves, what's the rush? Why do we need the story before we need the facts? Maybe it's because we all crave a sense of closure. We want the story to end neatly, even if it means forcing an ending that isn't real yet. But real life doesn't wrap up like a movie. It moves slowly, unevenly, sometimes painfully. And that's where we are with this story. The emotional side of all this can't be ignored either. Think about the family, the people who've been holding on, hoping, waiting. Imagine waking up every day thinking, maybe today's the day, and then realizing it's just another rumor. That kind of disappointment cuts deep. And the truth is, those closest to him are the ones living that emotional roller coaster. They're the ones who have to navigate between hope and heartbreak every single day. Meanwhile, his team continues to talk, doing interviews, giving sound bites, promising big news that never comes. Maybe they're trying to keep the story alive. Maybe they believe it themselves. Or maybe it's all part of the image, to keep the idea of Diddy alive, even when the man himself is still confined. But sooner or later, the illusion always cracks. The truth always catches up. Because you can only stretch hope so far before it snaps. And when it does, people start looking for answers, real ones. That's when the conversation changes from, when's he getting out, to what actually happened. In moments like this, it's easy to get caught up in the drama and forget the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that this entire journey, from fame to downfall, is a lesson in how fast everything can change. One day you're on top of the world, untouchable, and the next day, everything you built can crumble. It's not just about what happened, it's about how you respond when it does. Maybe in some strange way, this period of silence is necessary. Maybe it's the space he needs to reflect, to rethink, to rebuild from the inside out. Because one thing's certain, the noise isn't helping. The endless speculation, the fake reports, they're just distractions from what really matters. Accountability, growth, and truth. When people stop pretending and start facing what's real, that's when healing begins. Not just for Diddy, but for anyone caught in the whirlwind of rumors and expectations. Because at some point, we all have to face our own version of reality, stripped of the filters, the followers, the headlines. And if there's any message in this part of the story, it's that truth doesn't fade. It might get buried under gossip for a while, but it doesn't disappear. Eventually it surfaces. And when it does, it clears away all the noise. So maybe instead of asking, when's he getting out, the better question is, what's he learning while he's in? Because growth doesn't happen when you escape the storm. It happens when you face it. And right now, whether he likes it or not, that's exactly where Diddy is. In the storm, facing himself, learning the hard truths that fame could never teach. And that's the reality check. No more hype, no more false promises, no more pretending something's happening when it's not. The truth is quiet, but it's steady. It doesn't need validation. It just is. So as we move forward, maybe it's time to let the noise fade and let reality speak. Because eventually, when the dust settles, the only thing left standing is the truth. And that's worth more than any headline ever could be. Now that we've seen all the noise, the confusion, and the silence surrounding Diddy's situation, maybe it's time to shift the conversation from what's going on to what's next. Because even though the headlines have gone quiet, the story of what happens after the fall is always the most important one. Here's the truth. Life doesn't stop when everything falls apart. It hurts, it slows down, it humbles you, but it doesn't stop. And the people who find their way back aren't the ones who shout the loudest. They're the ones who listen to the silence and learn from it. Maybe that's where Diddy is now. Not in the spotlight, not behind a camera, but in a moment of real reflection. The kind you can't fake, the kind that changes you from the inside. See, people love to talk about comebacks. They love the idea of someone falling hard and rising again even harder. But nobody talks about the middle part. The part where you have to sit with your pain, face your mistakes, and figure out what went wrong. That's the part that really defines you. Not the applause, not the headlines, the stillness. The silence. The waiting. In that stillness, you meet yourself. You see who you really are when everything you built has been stripped away. And that's when growth begins. Not in front of people, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet corners where no one's watching. We've seen so many public figures talk about faith, healing, and redemption. Justin Bieber, for example, recently appeared more centered, talking about faith, marriage, and finding peace. And while people were quick to celebrate that change, the real question isn't what you talk about, but how you live it. You can't just speak about transformation. You have to walk it every single day. That's where accountability comes in. Real growth doesn't start with excuses. It starts with ownership. It's saying, I did that, I caused that, and now I'm going to make it right. It's not easy, but it's real. You can't rewrite your past, but you can take charge of how your story continues. And that's what I hope Diddy, and anyone going through a fall, understands. Life gives you moments where everything stops. It feels unfair, painful, and heavy. But those moments are also an invitation to rebuild, differently this time. To move from ego to empathy, from control to surrender, from noise to truth. You see, fame is powerful. It gives you attention, money, and access. But it can also make you forget who you are when the lights go out. When you've been admired for too long, accountability starts to feel like an insult. You start thinking you're untouchable. But no one is. The world will always remind you that humility is not a punishment. It's a path back to being human again. And when you finally learn that, something shifts. You start to see that growth doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means learning from everything that did. It means owning your part in it, forgiving yourself, and slowly building again, this time with truth as your foundation. For Diddy, or for anyone trying to rebuild after public failure, this is the only way forward. Not through rumors or PR statements, not through interviews, but through genuine reflection and change. When you've lost everything, honesty becomes your only real currency. Let's be real, people make mistakes. Everyone does. Some mistakes are public, others private, but the pain feels the same. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise again is accountability. The ones who rise don't run from the truth. They face it, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. Growth isn't glamorous. It's slow, painful, and lonely at times. It means apologizing without expecting forgiveness. It means changing your habits, changing your environment, changing your mindset. It means doing the work every single day, not for attention, not for validation, but for peace. And peace doesn't come easy when you've lived in chaos for too long. That's why it's so important to create distance from the noise. People underestimate the power of silence, but silence is healing. It teaches you how to listen to your thoughts, your regrets, your hopes, and your truth. That's where clarity begins. Maybe Diddy's story, as messy and uncertain as it is, can serve as a mirror for others. Because everyone faces a point in life where things fall apart. Maybe not in front of millions, but the feeling is the same. The weight, the confusion, the fear of what comes next. But what defines you isn't the fall, it's the rise after it. When you lose everything, you realize what truly matters: peace, health, love, purpose. The things that fame or fortune can't buy. That's the real lesson behind every downfall. To remind us that success without peace is just noise. And for the fans, the public, the watchers, maybe this is a reminder, too. A reminder not to believe everything you see, not to celebrate every rumor, not to mistake headlines for healing. Because the truth is, healing doesn't trend. It happens quietly, slowly, one day at a time. That's why the real story isn't about whether Diddy's out or not. It's about whether he's learning, growing, and changing while he's in there. Because even in confinement, transformation is possible. Sometimes being forced to stop is the only way to truly start over. And this message goes beyond Diddy. It's about all of us. Every person who's ever made a mistake, lost their way, or disappointed the people who believed in them. We all fall. But what separates those who stay down from those who rise again is honesty and effort. The willingness to face the truth, take responsibility, and try again. That's what real redemption looks like. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about saying, I'm not who I was yesterday, and I'm working to be better tomorrow. Even if no one claps for you. Even if no one believes you yet. Because change isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And maybe that's the bigger message in this entire story. That no matter how loud the world gets, your real work happens in silence. Behind closed doors. Away from the cameras. In the moments where no one's watching, and it's just you and your conscience. That's where the rebuilding begins. So whether you're a celebrity, an artist, or just someone trying to find your way, let this be your reminder. Your story isn't over. The fall doesn't define you. The climb does. Take the lesson, not the shame. Carry the wisdom, not the weight. And when you rise again, do it with purpose. Because in the end, that's all any of us can do: learn, grow, and keep moving forward. Not because the world demands it, but because our soul deserves it. So maybe the question now isn't where's Diddy, but who will Diddy be when he comes out? Because that's the story worth watching. The comeback isn't about fame, it's about becoming. And for all of us watching, that's the real takeaway. No matter how dark things get, growth is still possible. Healing is still possible. Redemption is still possible. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens one honest step at a time. So here's to everyone who's learning in silence, healing in private, and rebuilding slowly. Keep going. The world may not understand it now, but one day it will. Because the strongest stories aren't written in the spotlight. They're written in the shadows when no one's watching. And when the light finally returns, those who face their truth will shine differently. Not because they're perfect, but because they're real. And that's what truly lasts.